Hey everyone, Layden Wilkins. Hey, I'm back with another rant today. Today I want to talk about, another whiteboard talk. I've thought about maybe doing some kicking drills, maybe doing something a little bit more physical, and get away from this board for a while. But anyhow, I had another thought as I was driving to work and back today. I was thinking about the different types of people, right? And there's 1,000 different ways to classify people, right? But in kind of the self-protection, self-defense world, it's usually sheepdog, or predator type, right? That's a simple way to think of it. Are you a sheep? Are you a sheepdog? Or are you a predator? And if you're watching martial arts videos on YouTube, and this one in particular, I have my guess where you fall within that. But I wanted to walk through this and talk about it, see where you think you end up, and if you don't end up in the right place, how you're going to get to the right place you want to be, right? So anyhow, stick around and let's get at it. Okay, so I'm gonna do this again. Keep in mind, I don't do self-defense from the lens of military, law enforcement, and things like that, right? I do it through the lens of your average bear civilian guy, right? So I wanted to make the separation between the two. And so I've got an asterisk for civilian, I've got this little delta for non-civilian, and when I mean by non-civilian, first responders, militaries, people of that nature, right? So what I did is I put this diagram up, and I put the sheep over here, I put predators over here, and then I put the sheepdog up here. And I'll walk you through this and give you my thoughts, and again, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think, okay? Let's start with what I would consider more of the sheep in this scenario, right? So I put a few things down here to kind of do a bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe a loose definition of the characteristics of people, right? So profiling, if you want. We could say something along those lines, okay? No, that's a bad word these days, but there is a good way to profile people, to have a better understanding of what their general interests are, what kind of makes that up, without being negative in that as well, right? So that's what I'm going to try to do. So let's start with people that I would consider more of the sheep type people. And this isn't always a bad thing, right? I don't mean to say this in like they're weak and their feet, all this stuff. That's not always the case, right? Sometimes it's just the fact that they don't have any self-awareness of possible dangers. Heck, man, that's a pretty damn good thing to be, right, in life, where you don't feel like there's any dangers. I mean, I'm not wired that way. I wish I was sometimes a little bit more. But I think about, things like I see stuff and I'm constantly looking around and checking things out. And it's not always like, the worst case scenario, but I always look and I scan around and see people sitting there having a good time. I smile and wave at people, see some people over here that don't look like they're up to any good, and I just kind of avoid them. It's that kind of stuff. It's not like I'm trying to be some, weirdo detective type guy, because I'm not. But these people tend to be collective in nature. Like they like to be together in groups, right? They like to do things that are probably less physical than people like possibly us that do martial arts or have interest in that kind of things. So they would maybe they don't do things like that. Maybe they like to play video games, and that's what they consider as physical as they want to get. So I would probably say they're not very alpha in nature. They're probably more beta. So they're probably more than happy to take the back seat to somebody who feels like they're more of a leader or more in control or command of something, right? They don't want to be the leader. They want to take the back seat all the time. They have a lot of reliance on other people, right? So I see people like in this category, they don't want to have any control over the matter. They would rather have the police take control of it, which is probably a good thing for the most part, but sometimes you can't do that, right? I mean, but you hear them say, you don't need a firearm because you just call the police. Those types of people, to me, they're not being realistic with, or they just don't understand the the level of dangers that they're advocating there, right? Because you may not be able to get to the police. The police not be able to get to you in time if you're at home and you have to protect your family, right? So things like that. So I think they rely a lot on other people to help them out of a jam. Okay. So I think let's go over to the predator, and then I'll kind of go around the diagram and I'll give you my idea, what I think, my personal opinion, how these kind of interact, right? So predators, right? And I thought about this really hard because, I know some people that have, background in certain areas, and quite honestly, when they have to go find bad people, they could flip a switch and quite honestly, they could be pretty damn close to a predator. But I didn't want to categorize them because I don't think that that's the right place. I really put them as like uber sheepdogs, right? So I changed my mind on that because I don't want them to be even associated with my terminology. Once I started doing this, it kind of made me rethink that. But I had originally kind of made this little circle between the two, but I completely erased that, put them as uber sheepdog. How about that? So predators, this would be to me more like, you're gonna find more of this type of behavior in two different categories. Mobs of people, right? So i.e. Antifa, right? They're upset about whatever they're upset about, government type things, right? And when they get together, it may not always be, well, I think it's more them than some of the other. Some people come to do peaceful protesting, and then you have your agitators that come in, start smashing windows, and give the whole thing a bad name, right? And so I'm not sure, I'm not like I said, I don't ever want this channel to be political, but I'm not sure which is more on the right side. Is it the peaceful protesters, right? Or is it these agitators that come in and make the whole thing look bad? Or are they all doing this, somewhat evil playing field? Who knows, right? I'm not in their mind. But you see what happens when you get a mob of angry people together. They can destroy an entire city, right? That part I do not like. I don't think that that's fair to destroy people's businesses because you're upset about something. That's completely unacceptable to me. Then you have your individual bad actors, right? You have individuals that are just as bad. Your lone wolf type people, right? And that could be, go name go look at all the bad people in the past. John Wayne Gacy, Charles Manson. Marilyn Manson's not a bad person. Charles Manson. You name it, right? There's thousands of them. You can just go through the list. Bad actors, right? And they convinced other people or did it by themselves to do horrible, horrible atrocities to mankind. Bad folks, right? And those types of people prey on the weak. The mob rule, they don't care. It's a bunch of them, and so there's tons of people, and they just roll through like a steamroller, where these individual bad actors prey on weak individuals, right? It could be children, could be women, could be, whatever the case is. But horrible stuff. To me, they're those type of people, to me, are the absolute worst, right? So most of those types of people are psychologically imbalanced. There's something wrong with them. If you look there's a series of books called Bad Men and Blood Letters. If you've never read it, go check it out. It's really cool. It starts way, way back. I think it maybe start in the Western days, maybe before that a little bit, but it goes all the way up to whatever. I don't even know if they're still writing them, but what it is they take individual people in history that have done horrible things. Even just gunslingers, like they'll take Billy the Kid, they'll take Jesse James, all the way to Ed Gein, Jack the Ripper, whatever, and they do this profile on them. And the one thing that you see this common thread is child abuse, sexual abuse, those types of horrible things that they were done by their family or through orphanages or whatever the case was. They were beaten and sexually molested and horrible stuff like that. And a lot of the times that caused their end results, right? Through this psychologically was just somehow in their psyche it twisted reality into something that through their environment that they grew up in. This is what they became. Horribly. Sometimes you're just born with that stuff, right? Sometimes people are born with zero emotions to anything. So I can't remember the guy's name. Kuklinski. He was one of the mob guys. If you ever seen some of his stuff, it's pretty scary. He had no feelings whatsoever, right? Zero. And the only time he ever had anywhere close to a feeling, the what he did to people was so horrible, it's just unbelievable. And he still barely even got a reaction to it. So I just call these guys in general scumbags. Okay, that's what they are. They're just scumbags. They're horrible people, and if there was a way to eradicate them, the world would be a better place, in my personal opinion, right? So predators are down here. Let's talk about what I call the sheepdogs, right? And the sheepdogs, you'll see I've got in sheep and predators, I just have civilians. I'm sure that there are people in the predator section and sheep section that are probably in the military or first responders, but I would imagine those types of people take a role to protect people more than they do to hurt people or to take a back seat. So I would imagine, don't get me wrong, there's always the bad, there's always the exception to the rule, but I would assume that the percentage is fairly low. So I just didn't add that. But what I did add up here to the sheepdog, right? So I put the non-civilians and civilians as sheepdog, right? And those types of people are more prone to being independent, right? They don't need help from others. They want to do their own thing. They're independently secure in their own being and their abilities to get things done. And so you'll see a lot of that, when you go out. And I'm not saying this is, remember, there's always the exception rule. There's blurred lines through all this. But if you go out and if you meet these type of people, you'll see what I'm talking about, right? They're very alpha. They want to take the lead. They don't mind being in front of danger. They don't mind taking control of stuff and talking and leading and whatever, right? They're just not afraid to do stuff like that. And to me, that comes in my personal opinion, it comes a lot in your upbringing, where you're independent, where your mom and dad or whomever raised you told you get out there and get stuff done, and you go do it. They don't need to sit there and make sure you do all this stuff. You don't want everyone to help you. You want to go do it yourself. And I think that breeds this type of person, in my opinion. You'll see a lot of these people take roles in some type of a protection, right? Whether it's military, could be first responder, like it could be even medical, right? Doctors, not doctors, but what do you call it? The paramedics, right? Police officers, firemen and women, all that stuff, all those people that fall into these protection roles, right? And then I talked about the alpha stuff, and I'll circle back to that for a reason, because I think a lot of this stuff, you find these types of people in martial arts, okay? So I know, I hear a lot of, a lot of the, and I have friends that are both martial arts and veterans from military, and I see when I get around those people, I never served in the military, but when I get around my friends from the military, we get along really well, right? We're not trying to have a pissing match like who's the toughest guy in the world. We just get along because we don't care, right? I think where you find those people that are trying to out alpha those people are these people that wish they could be these people. Does that make sense? These are kind of these people that aren't really self-aware of what's going on, and they try to be all tough and try to out alpha the alphas, and it just doesn't work. And you can tell. You can see it really easy, right? You can tell when people are doing that. When people are truly in this space and they're kind of more of an alpha type person, they just get along. No one's trying to outdo anybody. And matter of fact, you see those people, those individuals, and this is men and women alike. You see those people, they're extremely, extremely courteous and nice to each other, right? Because they respect each other because they know what they're capable of doing. They don't have to say it. They don't have to brag about it. They just know. Does that make sense? And these people, I think, are very self-aware. They're very self-aware of their surroundings. They're very self-aware of their abilities. I think they're self-aware and confident in what they're able to do and how they approach life, how they carry themselves, and those types of things. So I think that's kind of in a really quick, without getting into all the weeds with all this stuff. To me, this is kind of like an overview from Lane's opinion, right? So from just my observations. So how these come together, in my opinion, is I think you have this sheepdog, and that individual kind of sits over both of these. They're looking out for these guys. So when I talk about the self-awareness, walking into a place and you're looking around, not to say that there's predators, but they're aware of their surroundings, and so they kind of watch this. And then people, these non-civilian types, and even not civilians, but really the non-civilian. And when I say that, I don't just mean military. I'm talking about CIA, FBI, U.S. Marshals, police officers, sheriff's departments, they take roles in this, right, to go and eliminate this. That's what they want to do for a living. They don't get paid worth of crap, and we all know that. They put their lives on the line every single time they go out, and they do it for hardly any money at all. And they do it because they don't like these people. It's inbred in them to a point where they're willing to sacrifice time, money, everything to control these. And I love them for that, right? And I think we all do. They're also, I think, more on the other side as well, as you see this civilian and non-civilian are more here, right? I think you see, and I think the non-civilians to these too. Like if I saw somebody, I'm not a first responder, I'm not a military guy, but if I saw somebody in a bar picking on somebody smaller or a bunch of people that are smaller and just being a jerk and a bully, I'd do something. I'd go over and say, hey man, calm down, right? Everyone settle down, go over there, whatever. But I would help de-escalate the problem. If I could, if not, then, whatever. But I would try. And that's just ingrained in me. Even at my age, I'm still like that. I still would go and help somebody in need, right? I like to do that. It makes me feel good. So that's why I'm cut, right? And so I think you'll see this type of person, this sheepdog person. They look after people, right? They want to get rid of these people, but they also want to help these people and look after them. And so I think you'll see a really blurred line. I think the roles and our responsibilities and career positions are very different, but I think this set of people that live in this bubble, I think are cut from the same cloth. Like I'm not in the military, I'm not a first responder, I'm not anything like that. My job is extremely different than this, but when I leave my job, I kind of fall into this category when I go and do stuff and I train people and that kind of stuff. I live in this space outside of my job. I don't know why, but it's just this stuff right here. Maybe I'm not as at that uber sheepdog level as these guys are, right? It's very possible. So my thought is that I think that there's a big group of people that live here, and I think that once you kind of identify what those people look like, you'll see them everywhere, right? And you'll see these people everywhere, and hopefully you never see these scumbags, right? If you do, make sure you're protecting these folks from them, right? So anyhow, that's kind of what I'm going to do. But the reason I wanted to have this rant is I wanted to get y'all's thoughts, okay, in the comments. What do you think? What do you think about this? Does this make sense to you? Do you see yourself in this sheepdog space? Do you see yourself in this space? If you see yourself in this space, do you want to get to this space, right? And if so, how do you plan to get to that? And like I said, these doesn't make these people weak. That's not my point. I just think these people have a different reality. Sometimes I'm a bit envious of that because they don't see danger and everything, where these guys and gals might see a different view of that, right? And these guys down here, I know none of us are in this space, but these two spaces, I think, is probably where you're going to find the majority. I'd probably say 98% of martial artists are in this world here, right? But it doesn't mean that there's some people that live here. I've seen some martial artists that I guarantee you live here, right? And I'm not going to say any particular styles, but you know what I'm talking about. Just go out there and watch some of the YouTube channels where they're kind of exposing some of this fake nonsense martial arts stuff. They definitely live here. They're basically a cult. They're a martial arts cult, right? They're not doing martial arts for self-protection or the sport or something like that. They're doing it just to kind of like, it's like a hippie commune, some of this nonsense. And so I think they definitely live here. So yeah, enough of rant. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this. I know these whiteboard videos probably aren't as fun as me punching a Bob in the heavy bag, but I promise, shoulder's getting, it still hurts, but maybe I can do some kicking drills, and maybe I'll figure some stuff out to do for my next video. Hope you guys are all well. Take care of yourselves. Let me know what you think in the comments, please. And until I see you again, take care.